Hi, I'm George Ferguson. I'm the instructor for this section of BUS 241, Principles of Management. First of all, I'd just like to welcome you to the class, and we're really happy that you're part of the Johnson County community. Now, in the video, we're going to be going over several things. First of all, the expectations and what are the requirements of the course. And second of all, the how to navigate the course, all the things that are necessary to get to so that you can be successful in the course. I'm going to go ahead and share. All right, when you log in to Canvas and you select the course, you're going to get the landing page here. Now, the most recent announcement is going to be here at the top, and you'll see that, there's the learning objectives for the class and my contact information. There's also hot links to the primary things that people typically want to get to. Now, in this course, we're going to look at the syllabus first, and we're going to expand it a little bit. And I'm going to bump it up just a touch to make it a little easier to read. I have an office in one of the little cubicles over in 272, OCB 272, and you have my contact information. And folks, contact me anytime. Feel free to call anytime. Uh, I'm not in the office that often. The thing is, my office phone is forwarded to my cell phone. You have my email address. Contact me anytime again. And I tried my best to get back to you within 24 hours. Now it says that it'll be 48. I try to make it 24. You can see it's online and you see the textbook that we're going to be getting for this. There will be no digital proctoring and no Zoom recording as far as the classes are concerned. Hopefully you've read over the course description and the course objectives, all the things we're going to be getting into as far as this class is concerned. This is a day one program as far as accessing your textbook and all of the assignments and things. It's going to be through McGraw-Hill. And so make sure that you do get connected to Connect so that you can get all the readings and the questions and things done. We'll talk about that here in a bit. Classes are online. The week starts on Monday, ends on Sunday. Each week, what we're going to be doing is going over the assigned chapters. Now, we're going to be hitting 2 chapters a week. This is an 8-week class, so it's going to be compressed from a 16-week. So we're going to be hitting 2 chapters each week. We'll have online discussions, um, written assignments or application activities. So those are the primary things that we're having for this course. Because it's 8-week, I've taken out a couple of things that are typical in the 16-week, make it a little bit easier to get everything down. So the chapter readings are going to be due at some point during the week, typically Wednesday and Sunday. Make sure you look for the instructions to find out and verify what date it's going to be due. There's going to be 14 of the weekly readings. Each one's worth 10 points. We're going to have discussion boards, okay? And so the discussions need to be complete and they need to be on time, okay? Now you can make your initial post anytime between Monday and Wednesday, all right? And then responses by Sunday. Now the minimum, okay, is your initial post by Wednesday and 3 significant responses to others by Sunday. When I say significant, I mean something other than, I like your post. So you need to make sure that you're providing more information. Meeting the minimums is a C. That is average. I mean, meeting yet minimums is just average. And so that works out to be a C. In order to earn more points, you need to get involved. You need to stay involved. You need to bring in new information, new articles that support your positions, that sort of thing. If you do not make your initial post by Wednesday, it will be a 0 for the assignment. The reason for that is because with Canvas, we can't assign 2 different due dates to a particular assignment. So you need to make sure that you get your initial post done by Wednesday. If you don't get it done, it's a 0. You're going to have weekly assignments, so they're typically application activities, which are a part of McGraw-Hill's Connect aspect. It doesn't take long to do them. It's primarily maybe 15, 20 minutes at most. The purpose of the application activities is to actually apply the concepts from the chapter to a particular situation. It's just reinforcement as far as the content is concerned. There's going to be a final reflection paper where you're stepping back and you're saying, okay, what were the key things I learned over the semester, over these 8 weeks, and how am I going to use them? We'll talk more about that a little bit later on in the semester. All right, now I don't accept late work. Okay. In business, if you make a commitment to a customer, you make sure you follow that through on that commitment. If you say you're going to have it done by a particular date, you have it done by that date. Therefore, I do not accept late work, except in very rare cases. If you need to make sure that you get in touch with me if you're having some issues and things like that. But the main thing is, I don't accept late work. If the system goes down and you're not able to accomplish the things that are assigned, you will not be held accountable for that. We can always work things through. And one of the things I like to push is that in the discussions, everybody has the right to express their opinion. One of the things I try to make all of my classes is safe. I try to make sure that people have the ability to share their opinions on things without retribution or somebody saying that really sucks, sort of thing. So everybody has the opportunity and the right to share their opinions. Talks about the instructor information. I'll get back to you just as quickly as I can. I will do everything I can to get everything graded by the Monday night. In other words, you submit stuff, all of your discussion posts. I bust my butt on Mondays to get everything graded so that people know where they stand and what it is that they can do to improve as far as their grades are concerned. Attendance, you have to attend. Now, if you do not submit uh, a an assignment that is graded during that first week, you will be administratively dropped. The reason for that is because we're trying to protect against fraud. So you need to make sure that you're submitting at least one graded assignment during the first week. I don't do faculty initiated withdrawals. All right, there are some instructors who will have somebody who kind of just disappears and they'll do a faculty initiated withdrawal. I don't do that. If a student chooses not to drop the course and does not participate, they wind up with the grade that they earn. You can see how the course is being set up. There's 7 discussion boards. Each one's worth 10 points for a total of 70. 14 chapter readings, 7 weekly applications, and then your final reflection paper for a grand total of 340 points that can be earned. And you can see how the points break down as far as the grades are concerned. Student code of conduct, make sure you're familiar with that. Don't cheat, don't plagiarize. And I prohibit using AI as far as creating the papers or the discussion posts. I do checks as far as AI created things. I have some checkers and things that will show me things that have been created by artificial intelligence. If I find that you have done something using artificial intelligence, as far as I'm concerned, that's cheating. That's cheating. That's not something that you are actually writing. That is something that somebody else actually, the program is writing for you. If I find it, you get a 0 for that assignment. If I find it a second, and a warning, if I find it a second time, it's an F for the course. So I do not allow AI created, AI generated topics, writings, counseling resources. We have some great counselors. If you need some, get in contact with them. Make sure you're familiar with the drop deadlines and the drop dates. One of the things we do is go through a lot of training to help keep you safe. And so there's all kinds of information there as far as this campus safety is concerned. Then it has the technical requirements. Now, for this course, you can basically do everything with a Chromebook. Okay. Everything is online. Everything is very easy to access and very simple to complete. One of the things that I do not allow is anything that's submitted in Apple formats. I don't run Apple. All right. I build my own computers. I run Linux on everything. Now, Apple doesn't play well with anybody but Apple. Therefore, nobody who doesn't have Apple can open any of the Apple docs. So you need to make sure that everything you submit is either in like a PDF or Windows format or open document text so that Canvas can open it. Canvas can't even open Apple formats. Then you have the tentative course schedule. Now, what this does is it lays out by day, by week, everything that needs to be completed. Okay, and you can see that there's 2 chapters for every week. And if one of the things you probably notice, there's no exams. So you have your chapter readings, you have your discussions, you have your application activities. Then at the end of the semester, you have your final reflection paper. So those are the key things as far as the requirements for the course. Now let's look at how to access all of the things that are in the course. Obviously, you're in the Start Here section if you're watching the video. There's also videos on doing discussions. There's information as far as the suggested computer specifications. There's a video on how to connect to Day One Access. Make sure that if you've never used Day One Access as far as some of the courses are concerned, make sure you watch the video so that you can get connected to Connect. You have how to complete your reading assignments. It's not just reading the chapter. What I suggest you do is at least skim the chapter. Then what you have is a series of questions that relate to the chapter. And you'll see that you need to get the concept complete, concept right twice in order to move through the chapter. So you will be presented with a series of questions and things, and you need to answer those. And you'll say, okay, well, I'm very confident in the answer, or I'm somewhat confident in the answer. As you go through, you will see that there's up in the upper left-hand corner, if I'm not mistaken, kind of a, a, a bar that shows how much you've actually completed of all of the concepts that needed to be covered. And you need to answer questions for each concept twice. The whole idea behind that is muscle memory, basically, where the more that you do something, the more it's going to sink in. And so the whole idea behind that is to get you to help you remember the concepts. What I have found is the Connect product actually helps people's retention much better. People, when I have courses that have exams, people do better on the exams because they've been through the Connect. You have a video on how to submit assignments at Canvas. You have a video on how to view your grades. Folks, please watch that. I've had so many people say, well, I didn't know where I stood because, dummy, you didn't look to see what your grades were. So make sure you know how to view your grades, how to participate in discussions on Canvas, and then how to use Zoom for the office hours. So all of that is in the Start Here section. All right. You'll have your announcements, and you can look at all of the announcements. Most recent announcements going to be at the top of the homepage. You have the instructor information. So in other words, here's a picture of me with a picture that could, scare a buzzard off a crap wagon, and some of my background. You have the syllabus. You can get to the syllabus here. And one of the things I suggest when you do pull up the syllabus, make it a little easier to read. See that little arrow there? That expands it so that you can look at the syllabus in total. You have the modules. Now, this is going to be the most important section here, the modules. In the modules, I've set it up so that it's by week. So you can see week 1, you can see week 2, and the most important part of the modules are the instructions. In the instructions, there's going to be a video that talks about here's what we're covering and here's what's due and when. You also see in here are the things we'll be going over. Then it shows you by day what are the things that need to be completed and why you're doing them. And for each of the assignments, you'll see that there's a hot link where what it does is it takes you to that assignment. So it makes it real easy to get everything done if you just go to the instructions page for each of the weeks. You can see that for the first week, we have the Start Here video, which is what you're doing. Make sure you review the syllabus, and there's a link to the syllabus. You'll see that you have a link to the first week's Chapter 1 reading assignment, which takes you through all of the Connect questions and things. You have access to the 2 discussions for the first week. Now, the discussion, Who Am I? In this discussion, you don't have to respond to anybody else. The purpose of that is just an introduction so that everybody knows who is in the class. So you have the Who Am I? Then you also have your first initial regular discussion post. You click on it, takes you to the discussion, chapter one question. All right, and it tells you your initial post is due by Wednesday and three significant responses to others by Sunday. Late posts result in zero for the assignment. And it tells you here, okay, well, here's the question that needs to be answered as far as your response is concerned. You have your reply, and you can reply to others. Remember to go through the video as far as the discussions are concerned. So everything that you need to do is within the instructions page. Everything that is necessary will be within that module. You can see that I've also included in there the PowerPoints for each of the chapters. So that's week one. Week two, okay, you'll see that there's the instructions. You'll see that we'll be going through various things. There's some other readings and videos to watch. Excuse me. And what needs to be done by Sunday and that sort of thing. So everything that you need is within the modules. You can also access the discussions here. So each of the discussions are available to you. You can see your grades. Here's your access to McGraw-Hill Connect. And you can see also all the assignments that are out there. So this gives you an idea as far as what the course is really all about. If you have questions, please just give me a call, send me an email. We'll work things out. Thanks a lot, and hope to see you very soon.